Chapter 17. At this moment, the scene inside of the Peach itself was one of incredible chaos. James Henry Trotter was lying bruised and battered on the floor of the room amongst the tangled mass of the centipede and the earthworm and spider and ladybug and glowworm and the old green grasshopper. In the whole history of the world, no travelers had ever had a more terrible journey than these unfortunate creatures. It had started out well, with much laughing and shouting for the first few seconds. As the Peach had begun to roll slowly forward, no one had minded being tumbled about in a little bit. And when it went bump, the centipede had shouted, "That was that Sponge." And then bump again, "That was that Spiker." There had been a tremendous burst of cheering all around. But as soon as the Peach rolled out of the garden and began to go down the steep hill, rushing and plunging and bounding madly downward, then the whole thing became a nightmare. James found himself being flung up against the ceiling, then back onto the floor, and then sideways against the wall, up onto the ceiling again, and up and down, and back and forth, and round, and all at the same time. The other creatures were flying through the air every direction. So were the chairs, the sofa, not to mention the 42 boots belonging to the centipede. Everything and all of them were being rattled around like peas inside an enormous rattle, and that was being rattled by a mad giant who refused to stop. To make things worse, something went wrong with the glowworm's lighting system, and the room was in pitchy darkness. There were screams and yells and curses and cries of pain, and everything kept going round and round. And once Jane made a frantic grab at some thick bars sticking out from the walls, only to find out they were a couple of the centipede's legs. "Let go, you idiot!" shouted the centipede, kicking himself free from James, and promptly flung across the room onto the green grasshopper's horny lap. Twice he got tangled up in Miss Spider's legs, a horrid business, and toward the end, the poor earthworm, who was cracking himself like a whip every time he flew through the air from one side of the room to the other, coiled himself around James' body in a panic and refused to unwind. Oh, it was a frantic, terrible trip. But it was all over now. The room was suddenly still and quiet. Everybody was beginning to slowly and painfully disentangle themselves from everybody else. "Let's have some light," shouted the centipede. "Yes, light. Give us some light." "I'm trying," said the poor glowworm. "I'm doing my best. Be patient." All waited in silence. The faint greenish light began to glimmer out of the glowworm's tail, and gradually became stronger and stronger until it was enough to be seen by. "Some great journey," the centipede said, limping across the room. "I shall never be the same again," murmured the earthworm. "Nor I," the ladybug said. It's taken years off my life. But now, my dear friends," cried the old green grasshopper, trying to be cheerful, "we are there." "Where? Where is there?" "I don't know," the green grasshopper said, "but I'll bet it's somewhere good. We are probably at the bottom of a coal mine in the earth." The earthworm said gladly, We certainly went down and down and down, and very suddenly at the last minute I felt it in my stomach. I still feel it. Perhaps we are in the middle of a beautiful country full of songs and music, the old grasshopper said. Other children, with lots of other children, down on the sand for me to play with. Pardon me, murmured the ladybug, turning a trifle pale, but I am wrong. Am I wrong in thinking that we seem to be bobbing up and down? Bobbling up and down? They cried. What on earth do you mean? You're still giddy from the journey, the old green grasshopper told her. You'll get over it in a minute. Is everybody ready to go upstairs now and to take a look around? Yes, they all chorused. Come on, let's go. I refuse to show myself out of doors with my bare feet, the centipede said. I have to get my boots on again first. For heaven's sakes, it's not like we're going to go... Let's not go through all that nonsense again, the earthworm said. Let's all lend Centipede a hand and get it over with, the ladybug said. Come on. So they all did, except Miss Spider, who sat weaving a long rope ladder that would reach from the top of the floor to the hole in the ceiling. The old green grasshopper had wisely said that they must not risk going out the side entrance when they don't know where they were. They must first of all go up to the top of the peach and have a look around. So a half hour later, when the rope ladder had been finished and hung, and the 42nd boot had been laced neatly onto Centipede's 42nd foot, they were all ready to go out. Amidst the mounting and excitement, shouts of, Here we go, boys! The promised land! I can't wait to see it!" The whole company climbed up the ladder one by one and disappeared into the dark, soggy tunnel in the ceiling that went steeply, almost vertically upward.